How's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Wednesday night. It is the Earthmaster out here. July 31st, 2024. Wednesday night, about 11:10 p.m. California time. Last day of July. Goodness. Got the hot month of August upon us tomorrow. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.1 into the California area. We'll get to this activity here in just a little bit. I want to cover space weather activity because I think we're nearing an X flare here pretty soon. We've seen a number of M flares here over the last 3 days. Every single one of these spikes above this line right here is in the M flare category. And M flares are decent flares. Almost a near X flare here in the last couple large M flare events. So let's count this here. This is going to be 2 M flares. 2, 3, 4, 5, looks like 6 right there, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and it looks like right now about 20 M flares that we've seen here just in this time period. So this doesn't go back completely for 3 days because we still have the third day to fill in here. So this is literally just over the past 48 hours or so, maybe 56 hours, somewhere around there. But notice this stair-stepping event going on here in the last few hours, about the last 8 hours here. Notice how we've really started to creep up in here to the M flare category with consistent M flare movement. We're pretty much sizzling out here with M flare activity. That's normally a sign here that we're getting ready to see some X flare activity here soon. Currently flaring with an M1.2. Let me refresh this, make sure I got the most recent data. And this activity is coming from a mixture of sunspots out here on the western limb. Notice that bright feature right there. That's a current M flare taking place. Also a couple active regions here on the eastern quadrant of the sun right here. Getting a little bit of some flaring on that bright feature. Also quite an active region out here just beyond the eastern limb that looks fairly active as well. So we got an elevated threat here for some X flare potential. And I think we're going to see it. Look at that. Very visible here. Just got that sharp rise up into the sizzling M flare category. Should see an X flare soon. 99% chance for C flare. M flare at 75% chance in the X flare category. An elevated 25% chance. Here's our last 48 hours of M2 plus and above. Shows about, what do we got? There's 6, 7 M flares. But these are only the ones above in M2 level. We counted roughly about 20 here just on that chart alone. That's quite a bit of M flare activity. No major roars in the forecast. We did see a little bit of KP index here overnight, or tonight, I should say, for Wednesday night. Up into the KP index of around 5 or so. And that's going to be this yellow signal right here. Not a huge amount, but a little bit of a roar potential out there across the extreme higher latitudes. Maybe dipping down there into southern Canada, northern tier states out here as well. But really not seeing a whole lot of significant aurora events like they had forecasted. They were calling for a G3 class storm. Well, that's way above what we actually seen out here. So G1 was about the highest level observed here in the last 48 hours. All right, let's look at some of the complexity out here of the sunspots. And there is numerous sunspots out here. Quite the cluster going on here on the western quadrant of the sun. A lot of dynamic mixing here of the polarities of these magnetic fields within these sunspots. That is what... the dynamic activity like this is increasing the likelihood of seeing an X flare here soon from these sunspot regions. Here's another active area. Looks fairly complex here, stretching out on the eastern limb. Here's another region as well that looks fairly complex. I have to say that we're going to be entering into looks like an active period here on the sun with further M flare and X flare potential over the days ahead. Hopefully we can get some of these flares to shoot off a couple significant CMEs Earth-directed so we can finally get another, well, that'd be nice, right? A once-in-a-lifetime event happening twice in our lifetime? Well, that would be cool. Remember the events back in May when we've seen all the auroras down into Southern California, Mexico, I seen them here in Northern California. Absolutely a beautiful sight. I've never seen them before. And first time ever, Northern California, got to see it. Beautiful pink colors. That would be nice if we could get a repeat of that. But it's going to take multiple large CMEs headed off in the Earth direction. All right, let's get into earthquake activity, see what's going on out here in the earthquake department. As we zoom in here to the Southern California area, a couple smaller quakes here in the last hour in the red circles. That's going to be some very small microquakes. One of these right there on the San Andreas Fault, that's the southern segment, and that's literally right on it. This area very capable of producing an 8.1 magnitude earthquake. That's a considerably damaging earthquake, which one day will happen. It's not a fairy tale, and it's not a maybe. It will happen, and it's well overdue along this segment here. So, each day, each second ticks closer to a big earthquake down there in Southern California. That is just the facts. Aside from that, generally small microquake activity up and down the state here of California. Really nothing major going on. Got a 2.3 off the coast here, a Moss Beach from earlier this evening, just off the San Andreas Fault. Little odd earthquake out there. Don't really see too much movement out on this little basin. Let me take a look at this, see if it's been reviewed. It has not been reviewed, so this could get revised in terms of the location. I don't think it's actually right here. They could probably put it a little bit closer inland once it gets reviewed there, but apparently, obviously, it's not of importance because they haven't even looked at it yet in terms of a seismologist. Southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. One little earthquake out here from, looks like just after midnight, my time, last night, Tuesday night. Early Wednesday morning, I should say. A 1.6, 10 miles. I got to remember that. That's miles now. I switched that over from kilometers to miles to match the request out here. A lot of people wanting to see the miles out here instead of kilometers or kilometers, however you want to pronounce that. 1.4 up here along the Cascadia subduction zone area. Speaking of that, let's check out the tremor map here tonight, see what we have for Cascadia tremor. A little bit down here in the extreme southern end of the Cascadia, and a little bit up here in the central coastal Oregon area. Every time I say Central Oregon, the people in Bend there like, we're the Central Oregon area. This is like the west central area of the coast. Only about 31 epicenters here of tremor. Not that big of a deal for now. The rest of Washington up here, a couple smaller quakes and some explosions going on out here in Oregon. Looks like maybe a quarry blast out there outside of Redmond within Central Oregon. Yellowstone National Park, there's that 2.4 near the Hebgen Lake Estates from early this morning. Let's see if anything new has popped up here on the recorded seismograph stations here. Hopefully they're online, are they? It doesn't look like it. Am I still online? I am still online. But yeah, this page over here called is this thing on.org, the Yellowstone thumbnails are not working. So, let me try it again one more time. Not working. So that site is offline for now. We'll check back on that maybe sometime in the morning. I don't think there's anything major going on out here. I haven't seen anything showing up. I haven't seen anything showing up here on the well, I don't even have the Yellowstone station up anymore. I got to reset that. I forgot. Got caught up doing some stuff here today. Busy day tomorrow as well. But we'll get to it when we can out here. For now, we've got the a few seismographs that we're watching out here. But Yellowstone, I don't think anything's going on there for now. The rest of the plain states out here fairly quiet, aside from down there in Texas across the oil fields, continuing to see earthquake activity, and that will be a continuation for years to come. 1.8 around the Tennessee area, around the Appalachian Mountains. Aside from that, pretty quiet out there across the eastern portion of the country. Checking in on Hawaii out here around the Kilauea volcano. Still seeing some movement up around the summit area and a little bit offshore here. A couple smaller earthquakes. Some shallow, some fairly deep there at the typical regions. down below this area in the plumbing system. Not sewage plumbing, but the volcano plumbing system out here in terms of magma transportation here. We probably seen a little bit of uptick going on down below. That should amplify what's going on out here across the Kilauea volcano. Right now we're at a standstill. It's quite pressurized in this area, but we're not seeing anything happen yet. Let me go back here to the volcano hazards map here. We'll take a look at a few things. The volcano, Kilauea volcano, still sitting at a yellow and advisory. Nothing changing there for now. And there's a little bit of that earthquake activity up here across the upper east rift zone and close to the summit, where the majority of earthquake activity has taken place here, it looks like, in the last 24 hours. Let's check out a seismograph station here, see what's going on. Not a whole lot. I mean, this is the past 12 hours. There's a handful. But we're not seeing that heavy-duty earthquake swarm that we had seen about 4 or 5 days ago when we had that huge increasing movement. That was basically a lot of volume of magma from the summit area being displaced off here across the upper east rift zone. In fact, the USGS put this volcano at an orange and watch level just for a short time because of that movement and the major intensifying earthquake swarm that took place during that event. But now we're just kind of waiting to see what happens out here. The tilt meter across the area, let's go back here and double check that, is fairly stationary. Not seeing any major change. Here's that inflationary event there that took place. Quite the uptick. And the overall deformation here across the summit area shows we're still going up. That's a 2-day chart right here. Looks like a lot, right? But if you back out to the last 30 days here, you can see that huge displacement of magma from the summit. We lost that magma, so that's why it went down. And now we're starting to come back up. So a little bit of recharging going on, or maybe some backfilling. I'm not 100% certain, but the key to watching this is the earthquake activity out there. And it's been generally across this region. Let me show you guys the last 30 days. There's going to be a lot. And this is probably not even the correct number. You could probably at least times that by 2. So we probably got well over 3,000 earthquakes up here. This map is showing about 1,500 earthquakes. And you can see how that pattern has shifted from the summit area off here to the upper east rift zone, and even a little bit leading out here towards the northern edge of the Helena Slump and also the east coast here of the Big Island. Got to watch that because we could deal with some landslides out here if we get any type of significant displacement of magma in these areas, which can happen. You can see a large volume of land basically get dumped off here into the Pacific. But right now the main area is in this region right about here. It's just sitting there and just waiting on it, waiting to see what happens. That's all we can do right now. There's no fortune telling of when this volcano is going to blow, or at least show something else aside from just the waiting game. Minimal earthquake activity at best across the Alaska area. The largest one though of 4.7 early this morning, about 1 o'clock my time here for 4.7, about 10 miles deep or so, just off of the plate boundary. This is going to be the plate boundary here between the North American and the Pacific plate. You get into the subduction zone area roughly about here, and that's where the big earthquakes take place. But a little 4.7 up there for now. The western areas of the Pacific plate look fairly quiet. Not a whole lot going on here across this area. It may look like a lot, but these are just very typical 3s and 4s out here across the Philippines southward. This is a crunch zone. That's what I like to call it, because most of the plates tend to meet in that region to create a big crunch. Look at all these arrows pointing in this general area. Australia plate crunching it, Eurasia plate crunching this region. Yeah, a lot going on there. So there's always earthquake activity. Down south here across the Tonga area and New Zealand, looks like the Kermadec Trench seen a 5.7 or 5.1 in there. Let me see what they got here on the map. Kermadec Trench seen a 5.1, that 5.7 a little bit further up north. The latest quake in this area shows some further deep activity there into the Fiji region, northern edge here of the Tonga Trench. New Zealand in general seen a couple smaller deep quakes. See these couple rings raised off the globe there underneath North Island. Nothing going on here across the Solomon Islands area for now. That's again a little concerning. I've been mentioning it here over the past couple update videos just because, well, we haven't really seen anything. Last 30 days of activity here around the Solomon Islands area. Yes, there's some movement back over here, Santa Cruz southward into the subduction zones, and over here across this subduction zone area. It's a little trench region. The a couple different troughs here around the Solomon Sea, but this area right about here is lacking earthquake activity. A little odd. It should fill in, and so far it hasn't. So I'm thinking something bigger is brewing out here in this area. Continue to watch that for some larger movement. Across the rest of the globe here, a little bit of activity out around the Turkey area. Some 3s and 4s. Mediterranean area calming down slightly. And the Atlantic Ocean, the Great Atlantic Rift here, where things have been awfully quiet recently. Let me see what we've had out here in the last 30 days. That's very odd. Had some movement up north here, a little bit down south, but the central mid-Atlantic ridge out here, not a whole lot going on here. I'm wondering why this is taking a little back seat in the earthquake department. It's a little weird. Nothing, at least in terms of 4.5 and above. So let's go check out Iceland here. I think we're getting close here to seeing another eruption out here in this area, but the earthquake activity is very minimal down here across the Svartsengi area, the Blue Lagoon, and the power plant area, Svartsengi power plant. Grindavik down here. Last couple eruptions taking place up here around the Hagafell, Slingarfell region, in between the craters area, and there's not a whole lot going on for earthquake activity. So we did see a little bit of movement here over the past couple days, but it's been, at least for the past 12 hours, pretty quiet. But we'll continue to keep an eye on that because we're getting close. A lot of volume of magma underneath that area. Let's see, Middle America Trench here. Some 3s and whatnot going on. Got some earthquake activity just off the coast of the, let's see what that is, that the Ecuador area. Let's go check here real quick. Colombia, a little bit further out here across the plate boundary. This is going to be between the Cocos Plate, this little small one, and the Nazca Plate down south here is the bigger one that is being subducted underneath the South American region, South America Plate area. That's pretty obvious here on this plate. Got the Nazca Plate being shoved underneath the South American Plate as that trend travels to the northwest. Yeah, that little activity. 5.0 today, not a big earthquake, just a little bit of movement out there. And a couple smaller 4s out here in the last 24 for the Peru Chile Trench area. A lot of 2s in there. There's some smaller quake activity, but similar to any other major subduction zone, that's very typical. Except for the Cascadia, right? Cascadia is just one of those that tends to build up steam and then just one day releases a big old 9.0 earthquake. It's not like we see 4s and 5s kicking off here on occasion. But who knows? I mean, who knows what took place back here in 1700? They know there was a big release of pressure here, and they've looked back in time and counted all the times that this area has seen large earthquakes. But who's to say that maybe there wasn't some 4s and 5s out here leading up to the big one back in January 1700, 324 years ago. But it's quiet. Awfully quiet there for now. All right, what else do we have? There's that little earthquake out in Turkey, 4.3. Let's check out the hurricanes out here because we got some development going on. We got Carlotta out here in the eastern Pacific, now a tropical storm. 50 mile per hour sustained winds. We got pressure out there, about 1,000 MB. It is moving off to the west northwest there at about 12 miles per hour. So that's an interesting little hurricane. Oh, it's expected to be a hurricane here. Maybe not a major hurricane. Let's see what we got here for. Well, this is pretty safe. It's not going anywhere near land, and I think this is going to dissipate before it reaches out towards the Hawaii area. We'll look at the forecast models here in a little bit. So that's a couple different regions. Carlotta here, our main concern if it happens to develop into a major hurricane there in the eastern Pacific. The Atlantic Ocean got some disturbance going on here around the Puerto Rico area. Going to be heading off to the Dominican Republic region, potentially heading off into the Gulf of Mexico. 60% chance here of seeing some type of formation, tropical formation, in the next 7 days. So let's put this numerical model into play out here. We've got to bring up a little bit broader view here real quick. We're just going to go with the North American area here. We'll keep an eye on this hurricane right here, Carlotta. That's it's a tropical storm right now, right? But it will reach hurricane levels in the days ahead. So let's put this into motion here a little bit and watch that tighten up a little bit. But it's bumping up into some high pressure out here. A lot of ridging going on that should flatten it and dissipate that tropical system. Right about. Yeah, it just disappears over here, see? But there's another tropical system behind that. Now, I want you to pay close attention there to the Gulf of Mexico, because we got some type of development going on there in the days ahead. I'm going to zoom into just the lower 48 here and get a little bit closer view of what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico. We got some type of rapid development going on there that could turn into a major hurricane. Look at that, bouncing back and forth and then slamming into New Orleans. Oh, that's not good news. That is like a worst case scenario. I know these last couple model runs have been hinting at something, but this is a little ways out. This is into the first week of August, roughly. Looks like we got formation right about here on the 4th of August. This is going to be at 0 Z time. Sometime around this date, we're going to see some type of tropical system developing. They're just off the coast of Florida, where the waters are quite warm. Doesn't want to make it inland. It just kind of sits there and spins, backs off a little bit, and then heads due west into the New Orleans area as a strong hurricane. That is rather interesting, I must say. Let me see what we got here. This is going to be the wind speed. That's crazy looking. If that does happen, that's unreal. It's very low pressure right there associated with that hurricane, so that could be a very strong system. But there's some time between now and when this is expected. But we're noticing and watching the models here kind of pick up on something rather strong in that area. A little hurricane spinning up the Gulf of California here as well towards the middle of August. This is a ways out though, right? So we have to just watch it and see what happens. Let me go over here to the windy map, take a little bit better view at this. That's going to be around the 5th or so. Not really seeing anything showing here on this. There we go. A little bit of tropical development here going on. Although this model, this is the ECMWF model. Excuse me. The European model, they're showing what looks like tropical development, but weakening here just over Florida. This is way different from what the GFS forecasted. But there's something spinning off here, off into the Atlantic as we head into the first week of July. Here's the GFS model. This is the one I just showed you, but this is on the windy model. So this one it just kind of sits there, grows into a rather strong hurricane. Let's see what we got as we zoom in here. 70. Now I'm sure it's more than that. but it backs off a little bit, gains some strength and momentum there, and then watches. It literally heads right over towards the New Orleans area. That's where it's getting strong right there, and it could be stronger. You just never know. It just takes a due westward turn here, puts New Orleans on that south side, southwestern side of that hurricane. Again, this is a ways out, roughly around the 6th of August. We'll be checking in on this on a regular schedule now that we got the models hinting at some type of development. The NAM model doesn't go all that far. It's just the ECMWF, which shows a little bit different scenario, centered over Florida, and then it's really not all that strong. It's some type of tropical system, but it doesn't turn into a major hurricane. And then you got the GFS, which paints a an all-out worst scenario case here. But we'll keep checking back on that, folks. Hope everyone has a good night. Please stay safe out there, and enjoy what's left of the Wednesday evening. We'll catch you guys back out here for the Thursday morning update. Take care, folks, and we'll see you guys later.